Hey, everybody. I got Danielle here with me,
Hi.
clearly.
Yes.
Hey, we just want to bring some light to you what's going on in the lending world here. So there's some big changes that happened today that you need to know, and maybe some of your clients need to know.
Absolutely.
And it was with FHA loans.
Yep.
As of this point, it's FHA only that I'm aware of.
Yes, for this particular thing. There was an announcement that also came out regarding conventional loans. I'll circle back to that at the end. Let's cover FHA first, one at a time.
So FHA, and this has to do with residency requirements in order to get an FHA loan here. So this came out today, and if you're curious about looking up, it's FHA Title I Letter 490, really impactful. The purpose is to update the residency requirements for all Title I insured loan programs, which is FHA. And the implementation is going to start, so the FHA case number assigned on or after May 25th, 2025. Now, that doesn't mean that lenders won't start implementing it sooner.
Right.
That's when FHA is mandating it.
Yeah. But usually when we have a case number assignment, the case number gets pulled at the very beginning of a loan application. So it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody couldn't close escrow after that. It just means that you have to have that case number pulled before that deadline.
Gotcha. Okay. The background and rationale of this is administration priorities. And believe me, guys, we're not trying to make sides here. We're just sharing with you the information, the background and rationale. It aligns with the executive actions emphasizing federal resources for American citizens and lawful permanent resident aliens. So in fact, what they're saying is if you're not a permanent resident, FHA is not going to fund your loan.
Right. So if you're here on like a work visa and you don't have your permanent residency status, so it doesn't mean that you have to be a citizen, but it does mean that you have to have permanent status in the United States.
Right. Danielle went over the key changes. The residency requirements are, basically pretty standard, right? That, it is, it's for permanent residents only. It's up to the lender to document stuff. So you may start seeing increased requests for documentation. A social security card is not going to be sufficient to document this. No. And so, more fun stuff to come in the lending world, but I just want to make sure you're aware of this.
Yeah, it's going to add requirements, right? I mean, what happens on the lending side is when we see a social security number that was not issued in the same year that someone was born, which that all gets reported as part of the loan process. We see that on the credit report. We see if there's a mismatch there. And so, the credit alone is not sufficient. Social security alone is not sufficient.
What would be? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
They're going to want a residency card. So we will be conditioning, I'm sure, more frequently for permanent resident alien cards front and back, which has always been a condition when that is a status. It's just, sometimes people don't always volunteer that information when you're going through a loan process. People who have been in the United States for a long time and they have work here and they're filing taxes and all of those things, they don't always give us that information, even if they are not a permanent alien. They sometimes check the wrong box. And so this is going to be something that I imagine will add more conditions for verification.
Gotcha.
Permanent resident.
Gotcha. Important considerations we've already talked about. Social security cards are not going to be sufficient. This is not a time when a lender asks you for documentation to say stuff like, "Oh, we've never had to provide that before," or "This is unheard of."
New rules, new times, new guidelines.
And it's going to be the lender's responsibility, and I'm sure most of them will err on the more than the less, and the documentation review. So, there it is. Lenders may immediately implement these today, even though it's not until May 25th. And then, we'll continue to update you as we know more. But if you have any questions or concerns, always feel free to reach out to one of us. I always say between her and I, we know everything about loans.
Absolutely. It's really her. Now, it depends on the subject. And then to circle back on our conventional, because there were some announcements regarding conventional loans as well. And this is under the same kind of umbrella of administrative direction in policy. Conventional has rolled out, there was an announcement that basically said that some down payment assistance programs that were available through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are no longer going to be available.
Wow.
So it doesn't actually specifically outline which down payment assistance guidelines. It just kind of talks about expanded criteria guidelines for that. So we're getting clarification on that. I know that the Broker Action Coalition is getting more information on specifics on that. But definitely it is a time where we need to, you need to be cross-checking things. And if you were pre-approved in the past, and this is an area that might affect, you need to readdress everything with your lender and get a second opinion, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you want to set up an appointment, it's weird because this always mirrors me. Sometimes I point that way and it's over there. There's a QR code in your right top corner that leads right to our calendar. Pick a time and I'd be happy to call you, discuss your situation, and make sure that you're going to be okay getting a loan. So it was a pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful night. And Danielle, it was great having you.
I have one more thing. It doesn't
great.
mean that there's not loans out there for people who are not fitting the box of a permanent resident alien. There's still programs out there. It's just not going to be FHA.
Gotcha.
So
good point.
That's it.
As usual. All right.